All right, welcome back to season 2 of our show. It is a 1-year anniversary on brisket. This brisket here did 1 million views, over 1 million views. We're going to show you why this brisket did over 1 million views, and we're going to answer over 1 million views worth of questions. Stick around, don't go anywhere. Okay, so we have a 17-pound piece of meat right here in front of us. Choice, Walmart grade. So first question that I get, why Walmart? Very inexpensive, and if you know how to cook this piece of meat down, it'll do a fantastic job, and you'll never know the difference. So we're going to start with a little bit of lard. A lot of questions on the lard was, why would you put fat onto your meat? What this is going to do is give it a nice tone while it's cooking. It's going to set the color. It's also, I've got it on here warm. It's going to hold in all your spices. And it's going to just start the fat to render down. Now we're cooking direct heat, as we did in the video that we're going to leave in the link in the description. And the nice thing about cooking direct heat, you're not going to trim any of this. A lot of questions I got, why wouldn't you trim it? Because we're going to render out all that fat. And a piece of meat like this, that has a lot of it, let it work for you. Now, if you're cooking this on an indirect smoker with a firebox on the side, and you're not cooking direct, which we're cooking direct, you'll have to cut this fat off, because cooking indirect doesn't allow this to render like the fire. Cooking directly over fire, which we're doing today, all this will render off. Now this is the way, the original way meat was cooked. Coals were burned down, coals were shoveled underneath the meat, and that's the original way of cooking. Everybody has their style. Texas has their style, Memphis has their style, but I have my own. And families have their own styles. So my family has its style, and we're using it today to show you guys this. All right, so we're going in with just salt. Want a decent amount of the salt. Kosher salt. If you don't have kosher salt, use table salt. And the original salt was table salt that went on here. But things have changed, and we don't use table salt anymore for this. Anything with iodine in it, we don't use. Black pepper. We're going to go with a good amount of the black pepper. And we're going to use some onion powder, and that is it. Now, like I said, back in the days, we would burn down our coals, which I still do, and shovel in. And I do that for my hogs. I don't very rarely cook whole hog anymore, because I don't have the huge spreads of family like we used to have. The herd is thinned out, and we don't have that many people in the family anymore, so we kind of don't do the whole hog thing anymore. But I'll occasionally pick up a 30-pound pig, and we'll cook it. All right, so we got that side, nice douse. Let's just flip to the other side. Now the nice part about the lard here, and like I said, it's just helping everything just stick in here. And we're gonna leave this at room temperature as well too. So as the meat kind of warms up, the lard will stay on there as well too. And just give that a good douse of the onion powder. Black pepper on this side as well too. Get a good amount in there. Just rub it in. Pat it in and get the sides. Now this is step number 1. This is the easiest brisket in the world to make with the right cooker. And you need the right tools for the right job. And if you're going to cook a brisket like this, on a Weber grill and it's very close to the fire, it's not going to turn out right because it's too close to the coals. You need that distance from the coal to get the right result. And that's all brisket is. To get the right result, you just need the proper distance and the right tool. If you're cooking a small piece of brisket, you're never going to get it moist. It's always going to come out dry. I don't care what you cook it on. So, and I don't inject, because I feel the injections just put more holes in the meat and they push the moisture out of the meat instead of bringing it in. So a piece of meat like this, I won't inject it. So people talk about the way to cook and the best way to have brisket, but the bottom line is there's a barbecue joint called Snow's, and they've been in business for a very long time, and they're like the #1 barbecue joint in the country. And they cook over real coals, real fire, and real heat. That has a lot to say. Doing it the right way. Offsets have only been around since about 1983. Ballpark figure in 1882, somewhere around there. And you see the tank on the side and the firebox on the side. And before that, everybody was doing it this way. So, stick around. Don't go anywhere. We're going to put this on. Meet you right back here. All right, so this is the grill we shot the brisket on the first time around. That did over 1 million views. So let's show you what we got going on. So this is the barrel cooker, and they make a few different types of grills like this. This is my fire setup. So I got charcoal here. I got a piece of post oak over here. This wood drops down to the bottom. The whole coal piece drops down to the bottom. It goes down in there. And then you have a grate over top that you put your food on. Let's just lift this up. So that's the grate that the food goes on, and this goes lower. So what I'll do is I'll light it, wait 15 minutes, 20 minutes, get a good fire, put the lid on. It also comes with these holes on the side. You could either leave them out. Now this is pretty much a set it and forget it temperature. There's no control. You can't control the fire unless you put these bars in that they have that go back and forth, and you can control the fire. Also makes your food hard to get to. Got to keep taking these bars out and putting them back in, as you'll see later on in this video. One temperature control on the bottom, but what does make this nice is that if you're in wind and rain and a bunch of things like that and inclement weather, this is a great cooker to cook on because it's pretty much secure. You're not going to get a breeze blow in here and jack that fire up 50 degrees over or 100 degrees over and burn up your meat. So we're going to get this lit and we're going to show you what we got going on from there. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. All right, so this is our fire setup. Our fire's lit. If you could see down in here, you won't be able to see too much in here, but she's burning pretty good. We're gonna get this brisket on, get the lid back on here, and get these bars in to maintain the temperature. That's what those holes are for on the side. Don't go anywhere. Time to get this brisket on. All right, we're going fat side down. That's what we're doing. I'm just gonna move it in there. That's a big brisket. I'm gonna tuck everything in, and it's gonna shrink down. So right now, that part is touching that cavity, and that's the way you want it. It'll shrink, and then it'll move down. So let's get the lid on here. Let's stabilize it. And we'll meet you right back here. Okay, hour number 1. We're right at the base. We're about an hour and 15 minutes in. My mop sauce is here. I'm keeping it on top of the cooker to keep it warm because you don't want to go putting cold mop sauce on hot meat. And take a look at that. So we're going to start with our mop sauce. Now we're mopping this in the first hour. We're going to let it go 2 more hours. We're going to turn this meat and we're going to mop it again. And then we're not going to mop anymore. So it's 2 moppings throughout this whole cook. And we're gonna leave a link in the description to the mop sauce. And it's already on our site. And a lot of you probably have seen that before. And that's it. Now the reason why we put plenty of mop sauce on and use a ladle and not a spray is because that spray, it's not gonna be enough. It's not gonna really cool down the fire as well too. You wanna kinda cool that fire down. And when you cool the fire down, it'll take time to get back up and it's gonna smoke, adding more flavor. All right, we're gonna meet you right back here. We're gonna have a talk to you about some more about this brisket. Don't go anywhere. Okay, our brisket's on here now. It's about an hour and a half. She's smoking away, steady as she goes. I'm gonna talk to you about some of the differences between cookers. A lot of people ask me, what's the difference between direct heat, cooking a brisket, and an offset? So direct heat, the brisket is on here. It's about 12 inches from the fire. All that fat's dripping that in. Now something like an offset where the firebox is off to the side, that offset is a great cooker too. It's not gonna render down that fat. So a lot of people say, why would you leave all that fat on? Because that's your buffer. Now if you're using an offset, you might wanna trim off some of that fat because it's not gonna render down in that fire. You're also gonna have less flavor. That's my opinion. If you're cooking a brisket, these are long cooks, they're tough pieces of meat, and we're gonna stick with old school style. The old school style was to take a tough piece of meat like this, break it down, cook it over the coals, burn your coals down off to the side, shovel them underneath the cooker. As I mentioned before, a place like Snow's, they're #1 for a reason. They take their time, they do it correctly. The offsets were made to save time. You're never gonna get the flavor from an offset that you will do from this. This is the ultimate cooker for brisket. That's how I feel. That's how my family did it for years. And this cooker works excellent for that. Also, it brings up great taste, great color. And like I said, it's gonna render that fat down. Also time, it's gonna save you a lot of time. This is almost like a set it and forget it. You can cook in most weathers, temperatures, altitudes with a cooker like this. This happens to be a small cooker. It's about 30-gallon cooker. 55 is kind of where you want to be, and you could use some dampers on the top to adjust your fire. Not on this one. This is a downfall to this cooker, but if you're cooking a brisket, it's the first time ever that you want to cook a brisket, you might want to start on something like this. And even as a professional cook like myself, I'll use this. Why? Save time. I'm not going to stay here all day long throwing wood into a fire and you got friends, family coming over and you're spending the whole day cooking. I'll be disgusted. I won't want to eat afterwards. So there you go. Also, this it's not going to rust like a big offset. You can carry it anywhere. You can carry it over to friends, family's houses. So this convenience of this, and like I say, if you put this up against a $10,000 cooker, this cooker was probably 300 bucks. It'll kill it. I mean, that's just the way it goes. It's going to do an excellent job. And that's what you want. Also, tallow. Let's talk about that. A lot of guys like to put tallow on the meat. They like to take a big thing of animal beef fat, which you're going to pay a lot of money for. A tub of that's probably going to cost you 50 bucks. It's going to cost you more than the meat. And let's talk about the meat on top of that. If you're using Wagyu meat, so the old school, tough meat, cheap meat, 99 cents a pound. I got this at $3.29 a pound as a piece of choice. I tell you one thing, if you put this on side of like a piece of Wagyu beef, yeah, the Wagyu beef will melt in your mouth, but it's not going to have the flavor that this will have. Why? It's a different cut of meat. It's made to cook a certain way, a different way. Maybe it wasn't intended. I'm not taking away from, Wagyu beef. I'm taking away from the style of cooking that you cook it. It's like a good piece of salmon. You have your salmon that you cook, and then you have your sushi grade salmon. And I'm not taking away from salmons, but you don't take a piece of sushi grade salmon and cook it. You just don't do that. And it's the same thing with a piece of beef like this. They're cheap, large pieces of meat. They're made that you need to spend hours to break down that fat to get that flavor. And that's how you get excellent barbecue. We're going to meet you back here with more tips and tricks. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. So for those of you that don't know what an offset cooker is, let's show you around. So this is a cooker that we're still working on. It's in the process. It's almost done. I just got to put a couple of added touches on here, but this is an offset cooker. So your main chamber is here, your firebox is in the back, but you guys can see that this is definitely something that you just don't take from house to house. I mean, this is a big boy right here. Let me show you the inside. Now I can't open this all the way up because I got my split pipe in there, but basically this is the inside of the cooker. Double shelves, they slide in and out. Very simple, very basic. And my firewall's over here. The wood burns in that chamber, brings the smoke over to this chamber, and we have this set up where it's burning even. So if we put some toast on here, it's the whole thing from front to back is even. If you put a plate underneath here, this cooker would be a reverse flow cooker, but because the exhaust pipe is on that end and not on the firebox end, just makes it a regular smoker, so the smoke just carries straight across. That's the best cooker you want. There's no hot spots. This comes up in the air, so I can just fold this up. All right, here we go. And there it is. That's my adjuster. Adjust my airflow. And that's what we're looking at. Still in the making. I've got some more work to do to it, and that's it. I just give you guys a little bonus footage here and show you what an offset looks like. All right, we'll be right back. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so we are 3 hours in, 3 hours and 15 minutes. Doesn't matter if you go a little over, one a little over. And we're just gonna base this, and then we're gonna flip it over. So first, I'm gonna get a little mop on here. It's gonna do two things. It's gonna cool down my fire, keep my fire from jumping back up quickly on me. And it's gonna moisten the other side. So by doing this, I'm just slowing down the fire because I got the lid open. And now I'm gonna work quickly to get this over. The first thing I'm gonna do is remove these bars. A lot of people ask me again, what are the bars for? Airflow. If I take the bars out, they're made for hanging meats. If I take the bars out, my cooker's gonna cook too hot because it's gonna let more air in those holes. Okay, and here we go. Let's flip this. Remember I told you it was gonna shrink down? Look at that edge to that edge. All right, let's flip it over. Here we go. Look at that. Beautiful. That's what you're looking for right there. Now in our last video, we put the lemons on there during the basing of this. So I'm gonna put them back on there. So here we go. Just so you know, it's my my brisket. Got one fell out of there. Let's see if we can get another one back on there. There we go. Put one lemon there. Let's get that other lemon out of there. Let's put it right there. Now a lot of people say, why lemon on beef? Lemon doesn't go on beef, it goes on fish. I had one guy say, but it's gonna soften this and keep it moist. So now we're gonna let this thing come back up to temperature. Another question, how many times do I have to refuel this during this cook? So I'm not gonna refuel this at all. I'm sorry, my bars are over here. I'm not gonna refuel this at all during this cook because I put enough wood and charcoal in here to keep me going for a while. So I'm gonna just do this. Put enough charcoal and wood from the beginning and you won't have to refuel. A brisket like this, you're not gonna have to refuel. So we're gonna let our fire come back up. Let it get cooking again. We're gonna put that lid back on, and then we're gonna cook it for another 3 hours. The basting is over from this point on. We're not basting anymore. We're just gonna cook it straight through. Another 3 hours, we're gonna wrap it and then back onto the cooker again. We'll show you what to do from there. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. All right, the great question, tallow. Should I put tallow on my brisket? Let me show you what my thought is on putting tallow on your brisket. Come on in. So this is a piece of meat that I cooked. It's a piece of steak. It's been in my refrigerator for a couple of days now. I did a steak video. We'll leave the link in that description to that steak video too if you want to see that. And it's been in there. It looks boring. It's kind of dried out a little bit after a couple of days. So what you're doing was when you cook with tallow, here's your brisket. Let's say you take it off hot. You take it, you go to wrap it, you add your tallow to it. Now, I'm gonna cut a piece off to the side, not wrapped. So I'm just gonna go like that. Let's say that's your brisket. We're gonna cut that. Now, look at that. Nice medium rare in the middle. Doesn't look anything special, looks kind of blah. I'm gonna put it inside here. Let's say this is tallow. Now, whether you're using tallow, Crisco, grease is grease. If it's not for health reasons, it's all grease. Oil, shiny. So we're gonna put that in there. Let's just say, now you wrap your meat. You get it in there. You put it on the cooker. It's off to the side. Now let's take this, for example. We do one slice. Doesn't look anything special. Now let's do this. Let's dump a bunch of grease on top of it. And look at it. It looks like a brand new piece of steak. So if I were to take this and just grease it up, no different than shining your tires with tires shine, it looks great. Now look at that piece. Oh, it's glistening, it's juicy. Oh, you could see the juices coming out. Meanwhile, you're squeezing grease. I can take the grease and squeeze grease. Meanwhile, it was as dry as a piece of cardboard before. And now it's juicy. Look at that. Oh, let's cut into that nice piece of brisket. It's so juicy. You get my point? So, when you wrap it, let's move this off to the side. In my opinion, I've been cooking for years. And to spend $30. Now, we put the fat on there to get it going, to render it down on that specific type of cooker. When you're cooking with this on an offset, maybe you might need some fat in there. Leave the fat on and cut it off afterwards, trim it off. Everybody wants a pretty brisket, everybody wants to trim it down, and the reason why everybody's briskets come out dry, oh, I tried a brisket, I'll never do it again. You know why? Should have left the fat on. We're not looking for pretty, we're looking for food. You're looking to eat this afterwards. So trim it up, get all your fat off, and you know what's gonna happen? You're gonna be stuck with a dry piece of meat. And that's it. Barbecue world is almost like the weightlifting world, bodybuilding world. You know what? A fella told me one time, he said, you know what, I'd eat a horse manure if somebody told me that I get big off of eating it. Well, barbecue world is almost the same way. You know, there's so many tricks and gimmicks, and nothing beats the old-fashioned way, spending the time in, burning your coals down, shoving them in, and that's true barbecue. If you want to cheat, take corners, make it look glistening. The judges, that's how you turn in your meat. You know, if you're turning in your box and you wanted to make it glisten, you would dump juice on top of it. At a restaurant, they're going to dump the juice on top of it, and they're going to show you that. You know, it's the sizzle, not the steak, that gets the attention. So that's my opinion of why you should put tallow in your meat. All right, so we're back on the cooker. We're going to go back outside. We're going to check on it and show you how things are going, and we'll meet you right back here. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. Okay, the time has come to wrap this. So let's get her wrapped. Whew. just take my bars, put them to the side. And there's my lemons. So I'll just take those, put them in the tray just like last time. This way you know it's mine. And let's get this brisket in there. All right. Look at that. Nice, big, juicy brisket. All right, let's get these gloves off. And get this wrapped up. Now my fire is getting a little crazy right now. Just gonna fold in. And I want it to kind of get it a bit crazy. Okay. Put these gloves over here. I want to use a lot of aluminum. I don't use butcher paper. Some people are different. I don't use butcher paper because it leaks. And I don't want this leaking over direct heat. And I feel when you use butcher paper, it's not as juicy. So what we're gonna do, just for a second, let's get my bars off to the side. They're hot, don't touch them. I'm gonna get my lid on to control my fire. Because my fire is getting a little too out of hand. And just wrap it up. It's hot. Here comes the smoke. From that cooker. Cooling down. It's burning off all that fat. You can see it in the background there. Now I'm going to turn this over like that. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I don't want this to leak. So I want to hold in all those juices. And don't be cheap and use the aluminum. Don't put it in the pan, and just get it nice and tight. Just like that. Believe me, if you're cheap with the aluminum, it's not gonna come out right. All right, now we got that. Get it real tight, very tight. And I can feel it, it's doing well already. This brisket is not gonna soul on me, because it feels nice and firm. All right, here we go. Piece on that side. And I'm just gonna cross it one more time. Now, I usually use a heavier foil, heavy duty. This one's a thin one. You can pretty much rip this with your pinky. And that's why I'm really wrapping the heck out of it. There you go. Wrapped up real good. All right, I'm gonna drop this back onto the cooker. That fire is cranking. Let's get this back on there. Just like that. Let's get our bars back in. Oh, they're hot. And just like that, let's get her covered. Done. All right. That's what you need all that aluminum for, to protect that. That fire got a little out of hand. I got a lot of coals in there. I'm not gonna gas this thing back up. I'm gonna let it cook straight through. So we're gonna let this go for about another 2 hours and we'll check it. We're looking for a internal temperature about 200 to 203, and then we're gonna pull it, let it rest for a couple hours, and that's it. We'll meet you back here. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. Okay, the big question today is Leroy from Albuquerque, New Mexico, wants to know about injecting. When is a good time to inject your meat? So the way I feel about it, injecting, is this is an injector. It's full metal, so always use a metal injector and something good if you are going to inject your meat. I feel the thinner the meat, the more injections you need. If you have a huge piece of meat, leave a lot of fat on it, and you really don't need to inject. And if you want to add some flavor, different than the meat flavor, then I feel that you can inject, and I believe it's a matter of taste. So injections, I feel, comes down to a matter of taste. Are they going to make the meat any juicier, tender? I feel it's going to make it more juicier if it's a thin piece of meat, but you can also boil the piece of meat too as well. So if you get a thin piece of meat and you're really not looking to boil it, and you're looking to cook it, depends if you want to sear the outside. If it's a steak that you're going to cook fast, I wouldn't inject it and just use the natural flavor of the steak, because you don't want a lot of moisture to come out of that piece of meat, and then you're going to boil it. So you'll boil it, then you'll cook it, and that's the way I feel. But I usually come from a world where we didn't use stuff like this. You know, back in the days, in the 70s, we didn't use stuff like this. So the barbecue world has changed a bit. People are using injections, rubs. Rubs are very big now. Before it was just salt and pepper, and people's taste has changed. The world has evolved, and we've made our way around the globe. Things have changed. So basically, a matter of taste. We'll see you right back here. All right, final stages. We probed it. We're at 200 degrees. Time to get this off. All right, so let's get the bars out of here. Again, if anybody asks me what the bars are for, it keeps temperature. I'm removing it from holes. So here are the bars. Those are the holes to hang meat. And we're putting them in to maintain temperature. Right now we're done. I'm just putting them in to put them in. But again, I'm mentioning these bars to you, so this way you guys know that the meat's not hanging on here or anything weird is going on. That's it. We'll meet you inside. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. So the brisket's off the cooker, and what I did was I put it in this metal pan here. I also put a piece of plastic over top of it, and I'm going to put some aluminum on top of the plastic. And then I'm going to stick this in the oven at 150 degrees. And I'm going to let it chill out for 2 hours at $1.50. Spin that around. And that's it. 2 hours. We're going to pull it, show you what we got. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. All right, season 2 chopping block. Let's recap this one. We cooked this brisket, total of 6 hours. We basted after the first hour. 3 hours later, we flipped it over. We let it go 3 more hours. Then we pulled it. We let it rest too. This is what we got. Final moment here. And it's still hot. I really wrap this guy up. All right. Whew. There are those lemons. And let's get this out of here. Now it's still hot, so I'm going to pick it up. I pick it up like this, and I'm just going to roll it over like that. Here we go. A little stuck to my bark over here, which is okay. And I could just pull that back off. Just put that back there when it cools down. This way I get a nice piece of that nice bark. All right, let's slide this out. Now that's the nice part about leaving all that fat on there. You can see I left all that fat on here, and look at that. It just rendered down to nothing. I mean, for all that fat, we got nothing here. So we're gonna cut into this. I'm gonna turn it this way. This way I can separate the point from the flat. So I'm gonna kind of go in here, cut high, kind of get in here on an angle. Slide that right down. And we're through. All right, I'm gonna put this 1/2 back. So let's put the point back. Look at that. Oh, that's hot. Beautiful. Left a couple of pieces of aluminum there. And I'm gonna start cutting. I'm gonna turn it that way. And let's get some nice slices out of here. Let's go down with that. Look at that. Now I let this one go a little bit more than usual. And she's nice and juicy. All right. Ooh, that's hot. I'm gonna just get a nice thin slice here. All right. Let's pick this up. Here we go. Look at that. Beautiful. Came out good. This was a big brisket, 18 pounds. It's still hot right now. Could use some time to cool down. Excellent. Let's put this off to the side. Let's get the point in here. All right. Let's get some burn-ins in here. So we're gonna slice this on the side. First thing I'm gonna do is just slice this whole cap just right off of here. Ooh, that's hot. You wanna let this cool down a little bit more. We're running late tonight. But look at that. Beautiful. And then we're gonna go from the side like that and get some good slices off of here. Some nice chunks. And let's slice this up off to the side. There we go. Look at that. Beautiful piece. Breaks apart. This is really rendered down good. I rendered this one down really good because it was a big piece of meat. Like I said, on that type of cooker, it came out excellent. But the meat, it really was big for that cooker. We're gonna give that a shot. Excellent. We're gonna plate up. We're gonna meet you back here. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. All right, so we're cleaned up now. Now I can explain to you a little bit more what I see with this brisket. Let's show you what's going on. All right, so first things first, the way this brisket was done. In the first video, I used cherry wood. This time I used post oak. It's the only difference I did. Around the outside, you can see a little bit of the reddish tint from the smoke ring. I also cooked this one just a little bit longer. I gave it about 45 minutes more to an hour, more than when I did the first one. The first one I did about 6 hours. It stole on me. This one's a little bit different. I cooked it, I rendered it down. It had a lot of fat on this one. As you can see, let's go dissect some of these pieces now that it's cool. Look at this. I'm gonna take a big piece in here and I'm just gonna pull it apart. And I'm gonna show you how all that fat just rendered down. So we can go right in here and just pull out the fat with our fingers and pull it apart. That's how rendered down that is. Still a little on the warm side, but I'm just showing you guys that, and I cook that fast, it's rendered down well. I mean, look at that. You can just bite into that. Just take a bite right out of that, and it's done. So this is a way of rendering down the meat fast. Leave all that fat on, and I'm gonna show you the fat cap on here. This was on the other end of the brisket. So I'm gonna take my spoon and I'm just gonna peel it back. And look at that. So if you really want to get that fat off of there, you can. I'm gonna leave it because all you need is just a little sliver of that with the food, just like that. And you can actually see it just cut like butter. So this is the way we eat it. I suggest you do the same. Just give it a shot. And for you, those of you that don't like fat, you can get rid of the fat. So if you wanted to just peel the fat off like that, you could, and you're right down into that tender meat. So fast cook, and for all that fat, I mean, that's nothing. Look at that. It's like butter. And that's flavor. So in my opinion, this is a better piece of meat. I cook it several different ways. This is just one way, and everybody has different taste. And this is the best way that I like having it because all that fat just renders right down in there. And even on the point, the flat, it's all good. Now let's plate this up and show you how this looks on a plate. So right here I have a little Asian slaw. You want to see a video of this, we'll leave a link in the description. And after I slave over this thing, and 7 hours for a brisket is excellent. We'll leave a link in the description for this Asian slaw. It's got walnuts, a lot of different things in it, so we'll leave a link in that description. And I put this on bread just like that, and that's how I munch. All right, that's it. If you like this video and more videos that are about to come, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you out there in the cooker. Don't go anywhere. That's it.